West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
My name's Shauna. I'm a resident local here for West Hill. Been here a few years. And I am your reader, your welcomer, and your song leader today, so you're going to see a lot of me. I don't know which way to take that, as apology or as a forewarning. Let us just start today. I'd like to start today as our land acknowledgement as we end Indigenous Awareness Month and Pride Month. I'd like to begin right off the top with our land acknowledgement. West Hill United is located in Treaty 20 and in the area of the Williams Treaty of 1923. These are the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and were previously occupied by the Seneca and Huron-Wendat First Nations. There are over 600 First Nations in Canada, which represent more than 50 distinct Indigenous languages across our country. Many of us are continuing to learn about the enormous contributions Indigenous peoples have made to our lives and the value and wisdom in the First Nations teachings of the Seven Grandfathers. Children are taught to practice living their lives with wisdom, love, respect, bravery, honest, humility, and truth, values that enable people to live in any way that promises harmony and balance with everyone and everything in creation. We invite you to visit the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, which provides a rich history of their peoples and their present-day activities. Their website is at mncfn.ca, and it'll be in our chat. Seeing that this is also the end of Indigenous, I wanted to share something with you. It's not only Scott that likes a lot of books, so do I. I got this week this book. It's called 52 Ways to Reconcile. Just because we've celebrated 1 month of Indigenous and recognized it, just because we've celebrated 1 month of Pride and recognized it, doesn't mean we have to stop at that 1 month. So this book gives some great ideas on how to carry that through for the rest of the year. It gives you one idea a week. And I grabbed the first idea. The first idea that gives you is host a movie night. I'm sorry, I don't know any Indigenous movies. But the second one is start an Indigenous book club. That's where I'm coming in. And I thought, there are so many great authors out there that I wanted to share with you. If you wanted to have a book club that talked about personal accounts and history and all those documented things, these are two great books. So there's 21 things you may not know about the Indian Act. That's a really quick, really easy read. Not an easy read, but you get what I mean, I hope. And 5 Little Indians. This is a very emotional read, but it is very, very good. It is written by Michelle Good. I don't know what her Indigenous name is, but she is an amazing author. She writes words. Her words that she writes takes you into the action. The next, if you want to sort of go away from facts and go into fiction. Yes, go into fiction. Wab Kinew, the Premier of Manitoba, he's an author as well. He's got some really good fact-based books that he's written, but he's also got some really good fiction books that he's written. This is a series called Walking in Two Worlds and then The Everlasting Road. An amazing series. I gobbled these up, and I would probably gobble them up again because it's a really, really good read. If you've got young people in your life, I would strongly recommend it. But there's a wealth of things out there. There's a wealth of ways that we can continue learning every week. And what this book provides, and I'm willing to donate it or to offer it to anybody who wants to take a look through it, it gives us 52 different ideas on how to extend our learning for helping to reconcile. Because part of reconciliation is learning and understanding from another person's perspective. So that's what I wanted to offer to you today. Now we move on to our readings. At the end of the readings, we customarily add the phrase, offered as wisdom for the journey. And we invite you to respond with the phrase, may we walk in its light. This is simply an invitation to participate if you wish to do so. Our first reading is by George Monbiot. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you, Andrew. How do we get out of this mess? These are the central, crucial facts about humankind, our amazing altruism and cooperation. But something has gone horribly wrong. Our good nature has been thwarted by the dominant political narrative of our times, which tells us that we should live in extreme individualism and competition with each other. It pushes us to fight, fear, and mistrust each other. It weakens the social bonds that makes our lives worth living, and into that vacuum grow these violent, intolerant forces. We are a society of altruists, but we are governed by psychopaths. Second reading, Václav Havel, Intro to the Power of the Powerless. A specter is haunting Eastern Europe. The specter of what is West is called dissent. This specter has not appeared out of thin air. It is a natural and an inevitable consequence of the present historical phase of the system it is haunting. It was born at a time when this system, for 1,000 reasons, can no longer base itself on unadulterated, brutal, and arbitrary application of power, eliminating all expressions of nonconformity. What is more, the system has become so ossified politically that there is practically no way for such nonconformity to be implemented within its official structures. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk in its light.
Andrew Welch is well known to us as an engaging speaker on human values, ecological economics, and the nature of current societal systems. He constantly presents us with a fresh take on these, making complex ideas accessible to his audience. He has published 2 books, The Value Crisis in 2014 and its sequel, Our Second Chance, in 2022. Today, Andrew goes beyond these to consider our world as we see it and feel it today, with so many in deep despair and fear for the future of the planet, for civilizational collapse, for social inequity beyond human comprehension, for the disappearance of the rule of law. The list goes on. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and powerless and ready to give up. Andrew feels the same, and yet he is convinced that there is a solution somewhere. Over to you, Andrew. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, John. So once upon a time, there was a 21-year-old young woman in Ireland named Mary Manning. And this was in 1984 this happened. She worked in a store, and she, along with her union and so on, came to this conclusion that apartheid in South Africa must be opposed. And she was dealing with the produce that was in the store, and she looked at some grapefruit, said product of South Africa. And she refused to sell it. And eventually she convinced another store clerk to join her. This is in Ireland. We know where South Africa is. The store said, do it. And they refused. She went on strike ended up with 11 other people on strike. For 3 years, they were on strike, from 1984 to 1987. The only reason the strike ended is Ireland banned South African goods in 1987. She met Bishop Desmond Tutu, who stopped by to say thank you. She met Nelson Mandela. Ireland, South Africa. She just believed apartheid was evil, and she was going to do something about it. So I wanted to start with some good news. This is a real risky one for me today, because, you like this? Well, it's going to start to distract me. It is a little warm, actually. I may just add it to the decoration for now, but I do wear it with pride. It's not the first time I've worn a boa. That's another history. I worry about today because I worry that I'm dealing with things that are so far outside what West Hill does and what West Hill creates that there may be 3 services where Joe is going to have to undo everything I say and bring you back to where you're supposed to be. But anyway, I'm going to just go out there and try this. I've got sort of 3 objectives for this morning. I like to give myself objectives. Why is evil apparently winning? I'm wrestling with that. Why is evil apparently winning? What about love? Love is love, love is love, love is love, love is love. I mean, it's all over West Hill, so we talk about it all the time. Where is it? Where does it figure into this dilemma? And I tried to come up with something a little practical, how to not feel powerless and overwhelmed. We're all struggling with that. So, I want to dive right into politics for a start. Are Republicans or conservatives more self-centered? No, I don't believe so. I tend to assign these things the way we all do, and then I just looked up definitions. I love starting with the dictionary. Conservative, favoring traditional views and values. Wasn't that kind of us? Favoring traditional views and values, law and order, we like that. Liberal, favoring reform and new ideas. Well, don't we like that? It's not about that. You've heard this before, but you'll hear it again from me. It's not about that. Are even the U.S. Republicans evil? We think of the most evil people we can imagine at the moment. The guy in charge, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, Putin, Orban. I don't believe people are evil. Kind of borrows from this whole idea of love your enemies, but no, it goes beyond that. I believe that some people are psychopathic, narcissistic, damaged, wronged, mentally unstable. But the problem is that we create systems that put the damage in the forefront and put it in power. That's where it is. I mean, look at the yin and the yang, right? The Chinese symbol of the white encircling the black, and there's a white dot in the black blob and a black dot in the white blob, because not only are evil and good intertwined, but they are within each other. There's nothing simple about this. I don't even think systems are evil, but certain systems allow the wrong people to commit evil, which harkens back to that thing in the reading. We are a society of altruists, ruled by psychopaths. For the longest time, we've had a couple of mistruths thrown at us about humans and about animals in general, I think. There's the one, that goes way back that says humans should be at the top. Humans are supreme. Everything should be oriented to humans. I won't go there. But there's also this idea that we are in competition. This is a competition of the fittest. And we now have pretty good evidence that that is wrong, that it was never about competition of the fittest, that collaboration is far more important and prevalent in evolution and why certain species and people are here and certain aren't. In our very DNA, there is, in every single cell, there's this mitochondria, the power cell within the cell. And that is widely theorized now to have come from a completely different species that just incorporated with us, right? Collaboration is what we're all about. So you got to ask yourself, do psychopaths always rule? Do psychopaths always make it to the top? And again, evidence seems to suggest that they don't. But I'll drop back to my favorite broken record of where more is always worth more. When you have that system, then yes, the psychopaths will always rise to the top. Why? Because it's a very simple, easy, clear objective. They don't have to wrestle with contrasting values. They don't have to do this dance of being on one side and then dancing the opposite pole. It's very clear. They only have to move in one direction. There's only one measure of success, and it's very easy for that to be adopted. So I think it's the combination of these things that create evil. I'm just sort of setting the stage here. So I think that when those values are the objective, they win, but the only power they convey is based on belief. We have to believe that those numbers are more powerful in order to give them that power. We have to buy into that. I think one of the other quotes in there was, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So we're going to be dealing a lot with opposites today. That's really what I want to talk about. Because acts of love give us faith and they give us hope. But do they undo evil? Probably not often enough. Right? When we talk about the opposite of love, we can also talk about the opposite of hate too. It's not a simple thing. It's kind of like saying, what's the opposite of I see a white car? Is it I don't see a white car? Is it I see a black car? Is it you see a white car? So many different ways of interpreting that, which is kind of where the title came from today, To Be or Not to Be. Just a little thing I saw, a cute little thing where all these people that played Hamlet say, it's to be or not to be. No. It's to be or not to be. It's to be or not to be, that is the question. No. It's to be or not to be, that is the question. It all depends on what we want to focus on. So I found a rather scary introduction to this. There's a guy online, he has a little series called Mini Philosophy. His name's Johnny Thompson. And he writes this about Emil Cioran, who's a Romanian philosopher who seems like a bit of a cynic. Cioran says, nothing good has ever changed the world. Nothing good has ever changed the world. Peace doesn't make history. Contentment doesn't change a thing. He argued that good and evil are not rivals locked in some cosmic battle. They are not even the same kind of thing. Because good is always passive, and evil is the only active force in the world. Seems a bit of a simplification, but we'll go on. Evil is what drives, it what creates, what devours. Good can only preserve what already exists. And everything that we celebrate and need is born of greed, power, status, and the voracious consumption of our darker nature. So he argues, and this seems a little more reasonable, that even staying alive requires us to commit a host of crimes. Getting through the day means we have to take constantly. We have to eat something that was once alive. We have to take up space, take up oxygen. We have to consume and consume and consume. And for what? Our living means that something else has to die. And so evil is not some wayward mistake of a species gone wrong. It's just the structure of the universe. So Charan is not cheering evil on. He's saying this is just how things are. Whenever we find something that we want to call good, it will inevitably and under pressure corrupt into something powerless and hypocritical. There is no battle between light and dark, good and evil, because the battleground is evil. Suffering, misery, and misfortune are written into the fabric of the universe. Well, that's a downer. But right now it really feels that way, doesn't it? When we're outside these walls. And so I struggled with this. I really do. And I thought about what seems to have worked in the past when it really goes off the rails. The opposite of hate might be love in terms of motivation. But you can't eliminate hateful acts with loving actions. You can fix things that are broken caused by hate, but you can't stop, I believe, the hateful actions with loving actions. And I came to this conclusion because I asked myself, on the back of every $10 bill, Viola Desmond. Do we know who Viola Desmond was? It was in Nova Scotia, actually. She stood up against racial discrimination. The Magna Carta, that basis of our justice system where the knights took the king aside and said, no, we're going to do things this way. Emancipation, the civil rights movement, World War II, the court challenges that are going on in the United States, overthrowing apartheid. Are any of these classified as acts of love? Be a stretch, right? We can be governed by love, we can be guided by love, but our actions don't always have to be fair in that sense. In other words, two wrongs don't make a right, but you don't have to take a wrong sitting down. You can stand up and play by a different set of rules of engagement that have got to be driven by the level of evil that you're dealing with. So let's shift gears a bit. What are we dealing with right now? Right? It used to be when we were growing up that the nuclear war was the biggest threat. I don't think nuclear war is the threat right now, oddly enough. I think the clock of doom should be turned back. You know why? Because there is no money in nuclear war. Nobody makes any money in nuclear war. I think that's a pretty strong argument. So what are our current nuclear weapons of the time? Money. We got a trillionaire now. And it's not just in the United States. There's 83 billionaires in Canada. It's not politics, it's economics. What's more frightening, climate change or AI? What do you think? Who says climate change? Who says AI? It's about equal. This reminds me of the story they talk about for women, say, what would you rather encounter in the woods, a bear or a man? The women say the bear. And you know what? I'm saying that climate change is the bear. It's a natural thing. Well, it's unnatural in the way we've created it, but we pretty much can get an idea of what we're dealing with, what we're going to be grasping. We could follow it with science. AI, totally unpredictable. We don't even know what's going on behind all those closed doors. We have no idea where it's going to head. Scientists are struggling to predict climate change and convey that to us, but AI, no. And social media would be our third nuclear weapon as far as I'm concerned, because remember, those powers are based on belief. Social media is changing beliefs. It's targeting our minds. All right? So these are what I see as our current nuclear weapons. Tim Wu, the American legal scholar, said the challenge of our time is that technologies like artificial intelligence and those social media platforms are very carefully designed to extract as much wealth as possible from all other parts of the economy. And these things end up, mathematically speaking, because that's kind of my route, they end up in what we call singularities. What's a singularity? A singularity, there's a black hole. We've heard of black holes. That's a version of singularity where all this gravity collapses onto itself. Singularities in economics might be one corporation owning everything. Is it impossible? I don't think so. I don't see anything that makes it impossible. A singularity in AI, which people talk about, is when an AI starts generating itself and becomes smarter than collective human intelligence and becomes completely detached from us. That's not too far away. So what can we do? Well, with West Hill, I always start with looking at VisionWorks, right? And we started talking about that this morning, actually. It came up. Joe said, love is a verb. So the VisionWorks, it's got some excellent things in there about love as values, love in action, advocacy, acknowledging the worth of all beings. We can do that. That puts us in the clear. We're doing the right thing, but is it taking on anybody else? Sometimes, mostly not. There's a problem buried in your VisionWorks. We seek to increase our awareness of the places of hurt in the world and our sense of responsibility for the consequences. Okay, that's adding more onto our plate. That's just making us feel even worse, right? But we respond to that immediately with, we strive to promote justice, resist injustice, and bring about reconciliation. Those are actions. Wow, now we're getting somewhere. I was delighted to hear about the Indigenous Book Club. What a great idea. And the things that, well, the kinds of things that frankly, that Aaron does. The movies, Coming Out Cops, Scapegoat. Even if they don't change the dial in the big picture, at the bare minimum, they change the dial hugely for the people who participated in those projects. So this is one of my lessons for what can you do, is focus down really tightly on the smaller things that empower you and give you the ability to get through the day without being overwhelmed. Because we learn helplessness. How do we learn helplessness? Helplessness is learned when you take an action and it has no effect. Right? So we can do the right thing as West Hill. We can stand up for the right things and the right values, and we can move forward in a positive way. But when we see that it is apparently having no effect, that's teaching us helplessness. And so the way out of that is first, I think, to acquire agency. Agency. What is agency? It's a bit of a buzzword, but it's this idea that you can have an impact, that you can make a change. And the experts say start small. Do something 1 hour each day or 1 hour each week or whatever that you do that actually has an impact on something, another person, yourself, whatever. And then build from there. Do things that have an impact. I was so thrilled also to hear about this MP meeting. That sounds really cool. To get a member of Parliament on board with some of this stuff. So, agency, getting past that learned helplessness. Kind of hard to stand up and preach unless you haven't been doing things yourself. So, and I said I struggle with this, right? I struggle with this all the time. So I wanted to share a few of the things that I've been struggling with. Mike or John mentioned that I talk a lot now about civilizational collapse. That I've been looking into this a lot, and one of the things I have to reconcile is that I cannot see this as a doom scenario, and I've mentioned this before. I see civilizational collapse as an opportunity for system change, and so I kind of There's Pascal's wager. Have you heard of Pascal's wager? He had this interesting idea. People said, do you believe in God or not? And he thought about that, and he said, I think I will. He said, I think I will because the cost of believing in God is pretty small. But the cost potentially of not believing in God sounds really scary and huge. So I'll hedge my bets and go with that. So I've kind of adopted the same sort of thing to civilizational collapse. I think if I accept that within my lifetime there will be some form of societal chaos and anarchy that's really going to hit the bus off the rails, do I really lose a lot by expecting that to happen and preparing for it? Sort of? Not really. So long as it doesn't bring me down, so long as I see it in a positive light in some ways. So that's how I kind of deal with that. And again, that's not for everyone. But I also go with the science that connection and community is more important than anything else. And a small thing I did with Elspeth, my wife is here today. Hi, Elspeth. Is we decided, damn it, we're going to do what we've talked about for a long time. So we printed up a flyer and we went round to a bunch of houses in the community, like sort of 4 in this way and 4 in that way and all the 4 across the street. End up with about 16 houses. We're going to try and gather them together and meet them. We live in a tiny village. We don't know these people. We're not inviting our friends, even from the village. We're inviting these people so that we can say we are actually living some of the stuff we talked about. A huge change for us in some respects. We decided to switch out of a major bank into a credit union. We thought that's the right thing to do. We've kind of thought about that for a while. A credit union, it keeps its investments local and it gets involved in the community. That's probably the right thing to do. But it was more than the right thing to do. We went into the thing and opened our account, and they were so friendly and interactive. And we drop in now, and they know who we are, and it's this different relationship. But it's not without its challenges. They sat down and they said, what do you want to do with your money? Because we have all these options, especially for a new client. You can earn a little bit more interest here in this GIC if we do this, that, and the other. I'm pondering it, looking at, oh, that's pretty good. That's a 0.7% plus. And what am I doing? The whole point in getting out of the big banks and going local was that I wanted to shift my values. And yet we get dragged back to this, how can I make the most out of my money? How can I get the most wealth? That's not what I'm about anymore. I'm really, really fortunate enough to be able to say, we have enough. We wanted to be doing some good somewhere. So these things will always be a challenge. Here's another tip, I think. Work in pairs, partner up, or larger circles. Why? Because we believe that the good thing to do is to be humble and modest. Humility and modesty doesn't get the message out there. You need somebody else to be saying, do you know what this guy did last week? I'm going to post it online. And do post it online. Because people out there are hungry for those stories. And not an AI version of that story, but the real thing, right? And it's a little easier if you're partnering up on these things and accountable to one another. Resistance, when it works, is agency. The grapefruit ladies had a worldwide impact. And there was Mary Manning saying, I don't think we should be selling these grapefruits. Right? So I say, don't bring a pony to a horse race. Bring a goat and have the race staged in the mountains. Right? Change the narrative. Don't play the way they do. Shift it up for yourself. Thanks.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.